We're back then today with another updated levelling guide for Last Epoch. In today's video we will run over one of the quickest and easiest ways to level the Druid Mastery from level 1 to 80 in patch 1.1. The setup that we will be running here is making use of the Werebear form alongside Swipe and Upheaval. There hasn't been a lot of changes with this setup since patch 1.0, however I have made some changes to the actual format of the video based on feedback from previous videos. Now before we go in and we start breaking it all down, if the video is helpful, please do take the time to hit the like, share and subscribe button. Leaving a comment below helps out a ton as well. But let's go in, let's start breaking all this down. We start off here then with a quick breakdown of the general progression in this build, so you can feel free to save this as an infographic for quick reference. But at level 1 you want to use Summon Wolf and you'll use auto cast on this for heal, that will buff you and your wolves as well. Level 3 you want to add Fury Leap to your bar, this helps you get around the levels quicker. At level 5 you'll add Swipe to your bar and you'll start using that as your main spender, and you'll also want to spec into Swipe at that point as well, and later on in the video I'll cover where you want to allocate your points. Next up you add Warcry to your bar when you've got 10 points in the Druid Mastery. At level 10 you'll spec into Warcry. At level 16, or around about level 16, you unlock the Druid Mastery and you want to add Werebear to your bar. At level 20 you spec into Werebear, level 35 you spec into Fury Leap, and level 50 you'll then spec into Upheaval. So nice and simple for the progression in this one, we're not swapping out skills or anything like that. But that is the progression anyway, so let's now talk about some gear you want to keep an eye out for. For this section here we'll run over some useful levelling gear you want to keep an eye out for, and based on feedback from previous videos we'll also have a quick breakdown of stats that you want to look out for with this setup as well. Starting off here then we have the stat priority for this build, so this is the fixes you want to look out for on your regular gear. Once we've done that we'll then cover some great unique items, but for the stat priority, strength is fantastic for this setup. You want to stack this where you can, it gives you damage and an increase to your armour. You've got melee and physical damage, which is fantastic, that will apply to all of our skills. We've got crit strike chance, you have health, that can either be flat, a multiplier or hybrid, they're all great. And then finally for a leveling build, movement speed can be fantastic as well. For the levelling gear we start off with the weapons. We have a great unique that's equipable at level 1, that is a Hammer of Lauren. It gives a real decent amount of melee damage, especially once again as it can be equipped from level 1. The next unique we have here is a one-handed axe, so once you get the ability to dual wield, if you have 2 of these then you can really do a nice amount of damage. This is called the Taste of Blood and it's equipable at level 13. It's got a real nice amount of flat damage and it's got a chance to bleed on melee hit as well. The next weapon we have is another one-handed axe. This is a cleaver solution. This will give you +1 to the level of all skills. Fantastic early game whilst you're leveling. Decent amount of physical melee damage and a nice amount of strength as well. It was slightly nerfed with patch 1.1, however it's still a really strong unique. We then have a really nice base item. It isn't equipable until level 63, however it's perfect for your setup if you are perhaps struggling to get a nice unique for this build. So this is the Eagle Wing, once again equipable at level 63, nice amount of melee damage, flat critical strike chance and increased movement speed as well. Finishing up weapons you want to keep an eye out for, we've got Harkar's Phoenix, once again equipable at level 63, very similar to the last item when you look at the implicits. The modifier that's nice in this one for leveling is that up to +2 to the level of Primalist melee skills, and it's a one-handed weapon, so if you have 2 of these that's +4 to your skills. For the helmet slot, an item that works great here whilst leveling would be Last Bear's Lament. This is a set item if you actually use all 3 pieces of this, and I would recommend it for a leveling build, not for endgame, but great for leveling. But if you have all 3 pieces of this, it gives you a whopping 30 strength as a set bonus. With the amulet slot we have the Bleeding Heart, which is a fantastic low level unique, equipable at level 4, increased melee attack speed, and the main reason we're using it is that up to 9% of damage leached his health, which really helps you face tank enemies. The next amulet is Chimera's Essence. Personally, I would probably stick with the Bleeding Heart because I love the survivability it gives you, but this one here will actually give you some nice bonuses as well. You've got increased melee attack speed, up to 160% increased damage while you're transformed and in your werebear form, and also increased movement speed. The one downside is that it will lower all your resistances while you are using this. With the armour slot here, we start off with another level 1 item, so great for levelling. This is the Kestrel, formerly known as the Falcon. This one, it gives you movement speed, and on top of that a chance to gain haste for 1 second when you hit an enemy as well. So all about movement speed when you are levelling. So the Kestrel then, whilst it does give you a nice amount of movement speed, you really don't have much survivability. This is where Uzrod's Pride can come in. You've got a decent amount of armor on this, and you've also got up to plus 15 for strength. Ideally though, for this levelling build you will be looking for the Last Bear Scorn. It's equipable at level 27, it gives you plus 10 strength, increased health regen if you're stunning an enemy recently, a huge up to 30% endurance, and physical damage leached as health as well, and it helps you move towards that set bonus of the plus 30 strength. For the belt slot we have one low level unique that really stands out. It's the Thorn Slinger, equipable at level 12, gives you plus 1 to the level of your physical skills as well as increased movement speed. Moving on to the ring slot, we have the Arboreal Circuit. I love this particular one. Equipable at level 1 once again, and each of these will give you up to 18% increased movement speed. So if you have 2 of these, straight off the bat at level 1 you can have up to 36% increased movement speed. Amazing for levelling. For the gloves we have 2 options here. The first one, equipable at level 6, is Stormhide Paws. So these give you plus 1 to the level of swipe, and every 3 seconds your next swipe is 100% of its base damage converted to lightning, and it deals an additional up to 45 melee flat lightning damage. This really ups your damage at low level. The next set of gloves we have here helps you fill out that free set bonus for the additional 30 strength. It's Last Bear's Fury, equipable at level 31, you're gaining endurance from this, you're gaining increased melee physical damage, as well as a flat 3% critical strike chance for swipe. In early game, that really can help out. Finishing up the gear here we have boots, and we actually have a new item with patch 1.1. This is Flight of Quetzeri. These look to be great for levelling. So equipable at level 14, you've got increased movement speed, it gives you an additional evade charge, it also reduces the cooldown recovery speed for evade, and when you use evade you'll gain haste as well. So these will be great for sipping through the levels, and again equipable at only level 14. The final item we have here then before we check out the idols is the Advent of the Erased, equipable at level 16, a Weaver's Will item. So the base item on this is giving you up to 20% increased movement speed, and you've got a chance to gain haste for 3 seconds when a nearby enemy dies as well. So next up here then we'll look at some useful modifiers available on idols. On small idols you've got increased health regen as well as increased physical damage. On your humble idols you'll have vitality as well as increased physical damage. Stout idols will offer up to 21% increased critical strike chance as well as up to 30 flat health. The Grand Idol will give you up to 22% melee critical strike multiplier while you're transformed, as well as up to 30% increased physical damage. The Large Idol offers up to 9% increased health and 27% critical strike avoidance. A few of these can be really nice for getting your crit strike avoidance up early game if you have them. We then have the Huge Idol. It gives you increased critical strike chance and increased melee damage. The final idol we have here is the Adorned Idol. So this can give you an increase to the aspect of the shark and the aspect of the lynx that can work nice with this setup. Now, just before we finish up and we go on to look at the blessings, quick infographic here with a summary of the stats and the gear that you want to look out for as well. So once again, feel free to take a screenshot of this. But let's go in and let's break down useful blessings now. With patch 1.1 we now have access to a blessing library, which means it's much easier to add blessings to your characters and swap them around. So for that reason, any of the timelines that actually offer a stat boost as opposed to an item drop rate boost I'll cover in this section. Now, starting off, Fall of the Outcasts, I would say you want to go for experience. From the Black Sun you can get crit strike multiplier or crit strike chance, both are great, as well as flat health. Ending the Storm, I would go for increased health regen. From the Reign of Dragons, quite a few options here that can work out nice. It depends if you need offense or defense. You've got all resistances, crit strike avoidance, physical damage and melee damage leech, all will work great. From the Age of Winter, you can get increased armor and you can also get shred physical resistance on hit. And then finishing up, we have the Spirits of Fire that can offer you armor and endurance as well. Now that's blessings and ones that you want to use for this leveling setup. Let's now talk about the passive skill point allocation. For this section here, we'll use the Awesome Build Planner and Last Epoch tools. Now, I have a link to this build here and it's got the point allocation built into it. You can see it down here at the bottom. So if you go to that, you can see exactly where I will allocate the points. For the purpose of this video though, I'll quickly run over the nodes that I'm allocating the points in. So we have 5 points into Gift of the Wilderness, that gives us an additional 50 health. We have 8 points into Primal Strength, gives us plus 8 health and increased health regen. Strength is fantastic on this build. 1 point into Harmony of the Blades, that allows us to dual wield. And then finishing up this tree here, we have 6 points into Survival of the Pack. It gives us increased melee damage and melee damage leached as health as well. We then have 8 points into the Beastmaster tree. This is Ursine Strength. This gives us 8 strength and it also gives us a whopping 16% reduced damage taken from nearby enemies. So this is fantastic. For the Druid tree here, this is where the bulk of our points will go. We have 5 points into Primordial Resonance. This gives us increased damage 25%, allows us to get 5 points into Druidic Prowess. That gives us attunement and strength. It's plus 5 to both of them. We have 5 points into Focused Wrath, so that gives us increased damage while transformed and reduced rage decay. It helps us stay in the werebear form. Another node that helps out with that is Rancor. So with this one here, there's no rage decay out of combat. It's a 1 point wonder, that node. We have 5 points into Wind in the Leaves. It increases our attack and cast speed. We have 5 points into Bush Stalker. That gives us increased crit chance, and you also see that you've got the threshold bonus where you get health leech on crit. 8 points into Aspects of the Might gives us an additional 8 strength, and it also gives us increased melee damage per strength in bear or swarm blade form. Of course, we're using bear form for this setup, so you can get a nice amount of increased damage from this. We have 10 points into Force of Nature, gives us flat melee physical damage, which is great for us. And then we move along to Rageburn. It's 150% increased crit chance, that's with 8 points, and also we gain free rage on crit, and we should be critting relatively often with this setup. And then finishing up, we have Hide Skin, which is an additional 150 health, and really nicely we've got maximum health gained as endurance threshold as well. That's up to 10% there, so that really ups that threshold for that. So that is the passive trees. Let's look at the skills now. The first skill that we specialise into here then would be Swipe. Now there was no changes with this setup with patch 1.1, and I'll just mention it once again down the bottom using the link in the description. You can see the order that I do allocate the points, so for this video I'll just run over the nodes quickly. We've got Way of the Hunt. This allows us to go further along the tree to Wingarian Hunt, which in turn then allows us to get to Cullen. That's our main goal here. That gives you a kill threshold of 14%, so that's really nice on bosses. We have 5 points into Aspect of the Panther. That gives us 5% global damage per stack. 1 point into Feline Hunter for additional global attack speed. 2 points into Lion Strength, that allows us to get 7 Aspect of the Panther stacks and plus 14 global melee damage when we have all those 7 stacks. 3 points into Sabertooth's Endurance, that then allows us to get our 3 points into Twin Fangs to finish up here. Now if you're dual wielding, you've got the 7 stacks of Aspect of the Panther. This will give you close to 170% critical multiplier, which is absolutely huge. The next skill we have here is Warcry. This can be a great interrupt on bosses. So with patch 1.1, the cooldown in this went from 10 seconds to 18. However, the way it now works is you get 20% of the remaining cooldown recovered whenever you stun an enemy. That can happen up to 2 times each second, and you should be stunning enemies pretty often with this, so the cooldown shouldn't be that different. Now, looking at the nodes here, we've got Juggernaut, 1 point into that. We have 1 point into Berserker, so we can get the Berserk buff. That's up to 10 stacks on that. We have the full 5 points going into Brutality, that increases Berserk duration and also the maximum stacks. And then we have Fury Strikes, so with this, Berserk actually gives you increased attack speed per stack. You can see that's 12% per stack, and bear in mind a moment ago when we ran over the stacks, we get 5 from here and 10 from here. So that is 12% times 15. So that's a huge amount of attack speed you get from that. We then have Deep Roar. We're putting points into that to allow us to get the Battle Cry. That increases your crit chance by 100%, which is pretty amazing. And then we've got Ferocity. So there's a chance that when Warcry is on cooldown and you crit, you will actually use it again. We then have 2 points into Staggering Roar, increases the knockback distance. The reason we're putting 2 points into that is allow us to get to Apprehend. So with this we can pull enemies towards us, and then when we use Upheaval we'll get huge bonuses from that. The next specialisation we have here is Werebear form. So our first point goes into Ursine Heart, gives us endurance and endurance threshold. That allows us to place 4 points into Frenzied Strikes, so you regain additional rage if you hit at least one enemy with swipe. So this really helps us stay in the Werebear form. We then have Invigoration, 1 point into this. 3 points into Blood First. We're only putting 3 points into it to allow us to get 1 point into Skull Crusher. So your Fury Leap tree now applies to Maul. This helps out a ton. We have Fury of the Maul. The 2 points in that allow us to place 1 point into Tremor Slam. Quite a lot going on with this, but I'll say the reason we're using this is it will give us an additional 30% more damage when we use Upheaval, so that really ups the damage on it. Moving over this side of the tree, we have Rip and Tear. 1 point into this allows us 2 points into Army Sunderer, which then allows us 4 points to Insatiable. So this one you've got base crit chance for Maul and Rampage, but also a whopping 200% global increased crit chance. Our next skill is Fury Leap. So with this one here, 5 points into Warrior's Entrance. That gives us additional global melee damage for 3 seconds after we use the skill, and we will be using it often. We have Windhammer, 1 point into that, allows us 5 points into Brutal Impact. So Fury Leap's critical strikes deal 100% more damage. 1 point into Violent Upheaval, that's the node that allows us to get that additional 30% more damage on Upheaval, so that's great. 4 points into Crater, increases the area on Fury Leap and it reduces the mana cost on it. And then finishing up we have 4 points into Panther Strike, increases the damage on this skill and it increases the global cooldown recovery speed as well. The final skill we have here is Upheaval. You'll be using this really as often as you can sustain it, and you want to be as close as enemies as you can when you use it as well. But starting off here, we have 3 points into Unstoppable Strength, increases the damage on it and increases the stun chance, allows us 1 point into Excavating Blow, which increases the fault lines on this, and then that allows us 1 point into Erupting Earth, so you get the 5 fault lines, so this will cover a nice portion of the screen. We have 2 points to Inexhaustible, that allows us 1 point into Mantle Strike, which in turn allows us 4 points into Crust Rupture, so Upheaval critical strikes deal 100% more critical multiplier. Moving along here, we have 4 points into Brutish Engagement, so Upheaval deals more melee damage to enemies based on how close they are, so that's why you want to use your Warcry to suck enemies in, and then you smash them with this and you do a huge 80% more damage if they are close to you. We have 2 points into Terrain Delving, that allows us 1 point into Terraform and Clash, which in turn allows us 1 point into Earthbreaker. With patch 1.1, the damage on this was changed from 30% to 40%, and it also gained an additional 40% stun chance, so for 1 point this is really pretty nice. So that really is everything you need to know for one of the quickest and easiest ways to level the Druid from level 1 to 80 in patch 1.1 for Last Epoch. I will be looking to update the other guides I've done, so if you found this particular one helpful and you want to help me motivate me in regards to doing these other guides, because it is a lot of work, then feel free to hit the like, share and subscribe button and leave a comment below. But thanks for tuning in for this one. I hope it has been helpful. I'll see you all again soon.